Hello everybody! I always seem to have something to do just before I start. Now is the light. How you doing? Yeah, that was funny. This is for Responsible Gaming, doing episode 141 of Ominous Designs. Welcome. Welcome. I need to just do a little more relaxed intros. That being said, we have a theme today. I do have a pretty precise idea of what I want to do. I came up with variations on look at this title moving now. On a mana dork that I want to run by you. Here's the title. We're gonna have 3 designs today, and they're gonna be Alf, and Alfie. Alfie? Alfie. It's Alfie. Oh, come on, it's Alfie. I'm not from around here. Okay. Boom. That's fine. Alright then. So let's see. What do I want to do first? Strangely, I think I'm gonna start with one of the most straightforward one. And I'll show you. And I also realized one thing is it's supposed to be elves because of the title, but I'm not fully certain I would like them to be all elves. So the first design is extremely straightforward and a little bit smaller and low to the ground and very efficient. What is it? Let me tell you what it is. It is this. Doesn't it work? Oh, it does work. And what? So why not? Why not? This I don't think is an elf that exists. Actually, we're gonna have a quick look. Hopefully, Gatherer is gonna tell us. On green. No, let's just do. So colors green. Boy. Oh boy. Green. We want CMC1. And we want add to mana pool. And hopefully that'll give us something somewhat restrictive. Let's see. Oh, creature would be great. How many? 31? Is that the number over here? Let's see how many pages we have. So, sacrifice, mana to any mana pool, blah blah blah. Get some red here. We get some multicolored there because it's a crazy hierarch. We don't really add red to our mana pool, and basically the idea is why not? Red green is not something that would be, well, it is something that would benefit greatly from quote-unquote better fixing in a mana dork, but nothing unreasonable, I don't think. And red-green is extremely format dependent as well. It's not every... it's a pretty solid one, especially mostly recently, but it's not something that can happen all the time. It really depends on what cards you have access to. And then modern and cube and whatnot, you know, whatever. Now, inspired by Avacyn's Pilgrim, quite obviously, which arguably I do agree is less useful than an elf that would add red, but I still think it's tolerable. In the same fashion, I would kind of like it to not be an elf, just because 1-drop elves are all over the place, and that is actually the one risk. But let's see, how many of the 1-drop mana producers are elf? Because there's a lot of like 2-drops that are elves, right? So the subtype is elf, and that's all we need to know. Because that's the one risk that I can see, is producing too many 1-drop elves. And now I'm checking, and it seems like there is a bunch of them. So I also don't think it is that much of a concern after all. I'm still slightly concerned, and I think I would elect to have it not be an elf just because of that. But we're gonna go with the title, and we're gonna make myself not lie, and we're gonna create 3 elves today. So I don't know. I mean, you know, like I already debated the power balance of this. I don't think, depending on the set, it might be an uncommon. I don't know. Is the Avacinian Priest? It's a common, isn't it? I mean, oh, it's not Avacinian Priest. It's what priest then? Avacin's Pilgrim. It's a common. It must have been pretty good. I mean, 1-drop elves. Well, they're not always fantastic, but they're still most of the time pretty darn solid. So that's elf. And now we're gonna go straight to number 2, because I don't think I need much more. I even got a little illustration here. So moving on to Alf. So which one is Alf? Alf is something that I would like to revolve around being able to make green and red. Oh god. Yeah, doesn't matter. So this one can create both, and the way it's gonna work, I don't want to be going anywhere close to Noble Yark, because Noble Yark is nuts, and I'm mostly thinking of a common and common design for today. Though it is quite interesting to try and think of what could be a rare that would be pretty thought after, maybe perhaps even cube and modern playable, that makes Gruul mana. That would be quite interesting to think about. But I don't think that's what I want to do today. I want to do similar cards. This is one of the main points. I want to basically try and produce 3 commons that you would have to decide which one is your favorite if you had to put in a set. So Alf, I've been toying around making it a bigger dude, something like this, for example. No, like a 2/2 for 2, for example. So most of the time we get 2 1s for 2 in green that make mana, I do believe. I don't remember if there's a 2/2 for 2 that makes mana for sure. And I feel like recently there's been pretty similar creature, so it might be that a 2/2 for 2 that makes mana actually has been printed very recently. Basically I know that something, either a 2/1 that makes mana or a 2/2 that makes mana has been printed recently. So this guy doesn't count. This one, oh look at this. It's a zombie elf that's a 2/2 for 2 and makes black. So it's very similar to what we're doing. And we get a rare over here, so it doesn't really matter. And we get vigilance and add mana, which is kind of funny. So nothing quite similar to what we're doing. There is as well this guy that I remember is probably a 1/1 then. Power toughness here, there you go. And I'm thinking of, oh boy, there's lots of them. Yeah, that makes sense. I should probably look at, oh, I used to love this guy. This guy. So this guy is a 1/1 and he does a bunch of damage. This is what we have in Gruul. Not that much related, but I just, basically what I wanted to remember is was he a 2/2? Because otherwise you would be actually it would be probably insane. He was already pretty good as it is. So I also do believe this is correct. Like I said, you get 2/1s for 2 in mono green. Now you get a 2/2 that can also make red. It's probably quite powerful. It's actually quite possibly an uncommon. I'm gonna be facetious and I'm gonna say I'm gonna run it as a common and see how many people tell me it's an uncommon. I would probably be one of the first to say that. I also believe that actually I believe it's extremely format dependent, because this is not very different from a Kira's follower. Kira's follower. It is indeed a 2/2 for 2 that basically makes either green or blue, and actually does a whole bunch of other things. Oh yeah, but that's an uncommon. Yeah. So, well, I guess my point is it's less powerful than Kira's follower, because all it does is make 2 sorts of mana, and Kira's follower basically makes every mana you have and untap your other permanents. It is not an elf though, but you know. So I think, and I do believe that in a format where this would be kind of like, you know, very mild tribal and not fantastic, like, or in a format where it's just a mana dork, you wouldn't have to be overpowered. He might just be very solid. I'm mostly finding excuses though. I think my first inclination would be to look at make it uncommon. That being said, yeah, I think it's totally plausible. Now on to Alfie, shall we? I think we should. Alfie? I don't even know. Alfie. So Alfie is quite different. Alfie is something else that came to my mind when I was thinking along those lines, I suppose. And he says something like this. So when Alfie enters the battlefield, you may discard card. Do you say discard from your hand anymore or not? I don't even remember. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. Okay. If you do, what if you do? Spoiler alert, something very similar to this. But not exactly. If you do, search your library for a forest or mountain card and put it in, and I think I want into your hand. Let me think for a second. So this guy basically will upgrade, or will fix your starting hands basically, and will allow you to have a land instead of a card, instead of whatever card. So he won't ramp you, and I think that's fine. I don't want him to be ramping you, because a ramp spell that comes with the creature is pretty hard to balance. So into your hand, then shuffle your library. If you do search your library for a forest mountain card. So if you put it in your hand, I think I did that mistake before. Let's see what the template is exactly. Revealed. Traverse. Search your library for reveal it, put it onto your hand, then shuffle your library. Okay. it's not exactly what I thought. Must depend on the card. So if you do, search your library for forest or mountain card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Okay, sure. Alright, so this guy transforms any card in your hand, if you would like, into a mountain or forest, and I think that's awesome. And I think that's quite powerful, actually. I think he might even need to be a 1/1 for 2. He could very well be a 1/1 for 2. I think a 2/1 for 2 that does that is extremely powerful. But I think it's extremely powerful in a excellent green common kind of way, more than in an uncommon kind of way. Can I explain that? You know, as much as I felt like I pushed the power level of Alf and it potentially needed to be an uncommon, just because I don't know, actually, because it's extremely square of a design, I guess. It's not something you really play around like a common. It's too visible that you are presenting people with a 2/2 for 2 that also is a mana dork that does 2 colors. So it's extremely obvious that you're pushing the envelope on a common, whereas this thing is yeah, I don't think I can quite put my finger on it. It seems very possible that it would be an excellent common over an uncommon. That being said, those things are not night and day. I mean, an excellent common can become an uncommon, and a common can be downgraded to an excellent common if the needs of a set ask for it. That sometimes happens. That's probably what creates some of the most excellent commons. I mean, it's not like rare, mythic rare, where some things you do make you a rare or a mythic rare. I think a lot of what distinguish an excellent common from an uncommon is mostly slots in your set, to be honest. Minus things like build around uncommons and things like that just need to be in a lesser quantity in a set. I love the design though. I really wish I could play with such card. That seems like a smart, feels great card. You love your little 2/1 for 2, which by the way is not fantastic. Like, you don't always want something that's under a 2/2 for 2 in green. It's a curve filler, but it's really not a great one, especially in certain formats with a lot of 1 power cards or high toughness cards, etc. But you really love your mostly solid 2-drop to also have an upside, and you love this upside to be something that stabilizes your game, and over here also fixes your mana a little bit, and maybe enable your graveyard. You know, that there could be such a thing in a set, in a limited environment. And what else? I had one last thing perhaps that I wanted to say. Oh, it just slipped my mind. I was just about to say it. I like it. Oh yes, what I wanted to say is it's not completely dead in the late game either. I mean, like a 2/1 is pretty bad, but is the ability still usable in the late game when you mostly have your lands? Maybe, you know, maybe you want to thin your deck a tiny little bit. Maybe you want to throw something in your yard. Maybe you need an extra mountain instead of a forest or whatever. So I think that's cool. Also, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Did I want basic or not? I don't think it matters. I don't think that this card is a card that would get played. I think it is a card that could be kind of sweet. Nah, maybe no. was gonna say in a cube, because in a cube this thing could be fetching, could be cycling one of your cards for like any sort of a dual land, right? But it's still probably isn't good enough to, with all the excellent mana dorks that you see out there, for you to play a 2-1 for 2 that just, let's remind us, transforms one of your cards into a land that you need. That being said, there also might be some graveyard shenanigans in cube, so maybe it is actually kind of sweet. Then again, those graveyard shenanigans are not Gruul. There might be Golgari, so there might be something to do there, but it's not anywhere close to obvious, I don't think. But it is pretty powerful to have that sort of fetch, how would you call that, rummage, that sort of land cycling ability. It's still pretty sweet. So this one could be argued to be an uncommon, and to be honest, if I was squeamish and didn't want to push the envelope, I could just say, okay, all of those are common, all of those are uncommons. I feel like pushing the envelope is a possibility, so I would do it, but I understand that they are all very high ranking commons. This one quite a bunch more easily could be a common over an uncommon. So yeah, I wouldn't be ashamed if I saw either of those in a set. I think they're fine. Yeah. I think if you tweak rarely, like at worst you make them uncommon, and then there's really not much to complain about. Just make sure you don't put them in a set where Gruul is fantastic if it gets a mana dork, basically. Sweet. Yeah, that's it. Those are Elf, and Alfie. Hope you enjoyed. I will be looking forward to your comments on either of the channels that you know by now that are up there on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Reddit tomorrow when I publish the article that you can also find on the blog. My blog is accessible through responsiblegmg.com. Do like and subscribe and give me all the feedbacks and comments that you can think of. That will help me figure out exactly what direction we're taking this enterprise. Thank you very much for watching. This is the end of episode 141. I'll see you next week for episode 142. Nobody's following. Okay, great. And yeah, that's about it. So see you next week. Play responsibly.